Greetings, humans. I'm Andre, and this is Couscous. Welcome back to the Windmill full of corpses. We're here with the bioluminescent vocal phenomenon of unknown alien origin, Chelsea Murphy of Dawn of Ouroboros. It's a pleasure to have you again on the Windmill. How are you doing?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm doing awesome. It's a nice weekend here, so
Okay, so first I want to do a little catch up of what's been going on in the Dawn of Ouroboros camp since the last time we talked, and then do a bit of a deep dive through the album, go through every song and a bit of what it means. So first thing I want to ask you is, you've had a recent lineup change.
yes.
I think the drummer and the bassist have changed.
Yes,
One
that
of
is
the new
correct.
guys was already on your summer tour with Persephone and Fallujah, and you're on
Mhm.
the complete lineup on your latest headlining tour. How is the energy with the new guys? How are you getting along?
It's going great. Ron Bertrand was our first drummer, and he is he's awesome, and he's very machine-like, and he had a kid, so that's why he left. And then Chris Strapoli, he's got a lot of experience touring with different bands. Um, over the years. So we're very fortunate to have somebody so experienced. And he's one heck of a large rig driver too. So it really helps. Um,
Wow.
yeah, he can park in like the most narrow, crazy backed in situations in any vehicle. So I'm like, yay, you can take the wheel while I sit back here and watch you do your jazz. So Chris has been very instrumental in keeping tours running smooth from the Fallujah, Persephone, Volvodenia tour forward. It's just been awesome having him on board. Not to mention the fact that he's just full of ideas and creativity in terms of sending files for stuff. So we're already working on the next album, which will be, I think, really, really good based on what, we're doing so far. So hopefully it's well received as well. And then we have our rhythm guitarist, Ian Baker. He moved over to bass. So bass is actually like his first love, and he was very excited at the opportunity moving over. David Scanlon, our previous bass player, he's got a real estate career that he's really invested in, and it became increasingly difficult as we began getting more touring offers for him to hit the road with us. So rather than him, stay in, he was like, it just makes more sense for me to go focus on this, and you guys can do your thing without worrying about me. So that was but it's all love. So we're still really good friends with them, and they come out to the shows when we play in the area, and it's like a big reunion. So it's a lot of fun. But with the rhythm guitar situation we have now, it's kind of like we float people in and out. We have Kyle Walburn of Tom Room. He joined us on the headlining tour we just did, and that was a lot of fun. Kyle's one of my best friends, so of course we were silly gooses the whole tour. So lots of laughing, and yeah, we're excited to just kind of have that freedom to work with who fits on the tour depending on when we go out. Um, it's really just a timing thing now that we're going out way more often.
Yeah, well, I love that you're getting more and more activity. It seems like you've been doing more touring, and also that you're making music faster. Gap between third and second album was shorter than gap between first and second. And now
Yeah.
you've already got another one in the work, which is like so fast, like the new one just came out. So
Yeah.
that's all great. Um, and speaking of new albums, you just put out, what is it, less than a month ago at the time of recording, you put out your third album,
Mhm.
Bioluminescence.
Yes.
So let's get into that. First thing, as I've listened to the album, it seems to me that each song tackles a different topic, different sort of imagery and emotions. Was the album thought as a whole to have any running theme or anything like that? Or is it just a collection of songs? Each song is its own standalone entity?
I would say the most common theme across it would be the ocean. You know, with bioluminescence being our title track and naming the album off of it, that was really important to me to like kind of have at least some more of an ocean theme. So, you have Poseidon's hymn, and then the Mournful Ambience that is the outro for the album. That song is really about like emotions tying into the currents of the ocean and everything. So that was just a fun thing that Ian and I created. And I don't know, it was we just got kind of experimental with it all as we tend to do. And there's songs that are completely its own entity that don't really follow the theme. Like Static Repetition is really just about like traveling because we've been traveling so much. And um I call that my train song. Hence the little stupid vibraphone thing I wrote in the beginning. Like, the little synth intro. But yeah, it's kind of all over the place as per usual.
Okay. Well, I like that it's somehow all over the place but coherent. It doesn't, a lot of the things I see in the album, they're just like images, emotions. They don't really mean anything, but at the same time, it feels like they can mean anything. So I wanna get into the songs and go a bit through them and through the lyrics and how the songs are written and see what you can tell me about it. So opening track, Bioluminescence, title track. The first thing I noticed about this one is in your debut album, the opening track had a 2 minute and 47-second exactly long intro up until the blast beats and screams hit. On the second album, it was about a minute and a half, and now it's 0. So was that a conscious decision to just whack the listener over the head as soon as the album takes off?
Yeah, so we thought to ourselves like our preceding albums have had like kind of a long lull in. And we just felt like it was time to shake things up and really just make it like an immediate impact right out the gates on the album. And I think it was the right decision. It felt right. So
Yeah. So for me personally, I was a bit sad first time I saw that because I love intros to albums. But
yeah,
at the end of the day, I have to agree that this is your best album in terms of how it sounds overall. And
thank
at the
you.
same time, it does feel like it has an opening because the first two songs are both very fast and they hit you. And it's almost like when you see a movie and you have a shocking action opening scene and then the main act unfolds, and that's when you flow into Sleeping Burgundy that has this big long drawn out intro. So that's kind of
Mhm.
how the experience is for me. It's actually very coherent. um
Awesome.
about the lyrics in the title track, you mentioned Hydromedusa aqua victoria. I googled this. It is a bioluminescent jellyfish.
Yes.
And my question is, are all the weird outfits that you're wearing while in the water in the music video your attempt to reenact the Hydromedusa?
Um, I would say I really want to something flowy just because it felt like, you know, in the sense of kind of mimicking the whole like sea creature, flowy, jellyfish feel. So I guess yes, in a way. And then the other part was it just the artistic illusion of it all, right? Like it just makes more sense to wear something more flowy in the water rather than, you know, something that's going to cling to you and just
Yeah.
be tight and terrible. So, um, yeah, but yeah, overall, I would say that it was very much about like the imagery and trying to get things right. Um, it's hard to do wardrobe in the water. I will say that the makeup and everything was like a nightmare trying to do everything. So,
Oh,
but yeah.
is there such a thing like waterproof makeup?
Yeah, so I actually had a makeup artist on the set that did like airbrushing. So like she airbrushed like all these colors and stuff on like my collarbone and around my face, like my around my hairline and everything. And um she like did this like alcohol spray over so that it'd be less likely to come off in the water. Like it's not 100% waterproof, but it's pretty good. It stays on pretty good. I was surprised.
Okay, that's really cool. Um, more about Hydromedusa. You got me confused a bit with that one at first, because at first I googled just Hydromedusa without the Aqua Victoria, and apparently Hydromedusa alone is just the scientific or the Latin name or something like that for snake-necked turtles. So I was like, is
You're
that
like, what?
bioluminescent? And then I figured out, okay, there's two different Hydromedusas out there. Did you know about that when you wrote the lyrics?
No, I didn't. That's so funny.
Okay, more about the lyrics. You have this line that I really like: "Galaxy bursts upon dancing tide." So
Hmm.
I actually found these gifs when I was doing my video edit to bioluminescence, where you have like the waves, the sea waves at night, and you can see this sort of like bioluminescent plankton on the surface that's just like these
Hmm.
blue dots of light.
Yeah.
So is this intentionally kind of to describe that image of like it's almost
Yes.
like a starry sky, but it's on the surface of the water?
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what it is.
That is really cool, and I love how it's integrated in the lyrics.
Thank you. Yeah, I got to go sea kayaking at night through bioluminescent waters last year, and that was like one of the coolest experiences of my life.
Wow, where can you do that?
The PNW, so the Pacific Northwest, has a lot of really cool bioluminescent waters. And yeah, it was really cool. I've been wanting to do it for so long, and finally the phenomenon is like something ethereal to experience. It doesn't feel like, how is this real, you know? So highly recommend if you get the opportunity to go out on bioluminescent waters to go and check it out.
I'll have to see if there's anything closer by to me, but if not, it's probably
Yeah.
something to put on my bucket list for the long term.
Yeah, it was on my bucket list for a long while, so I finally made it happen and then, had an album kind of echo that. So,
Okay, so track two, Nebulae. We
mhm.
move from galaxies on the dancing tide to
Mhm.
actual galaxies. So it's like when
Yes.
you switch from track one to track two, from the bioluminescent waters, you look up. Was this a
Mhm.
conscious decision to take the cosmic imagery from the first song and flow it into the second one by talking about actual cosmic phenomena?
Yeah, I would say that it's like kind of the exploration of like, unexplored phenomenon or less explored phenomenon from the bottom to the top. Um, Yeah, that's kind of how I felt about it. It's like, the whole cosmic theme and the ocean theme plays a big role in like my writing all the time. So that's just like something that will just keep popping back up for me at least. I just can't help it.
So, is there like a symbolic meaning or anything to the imagery, or do you just describe it, dive into it, and let it all be a sensory experience? Because a lot of
Yeah,
times,
I would say that the latter, yeah. So it's more like a sensory experience for me. Like a lot of times when I listen to music, I like see certain imagery, and a lot of times it falls within like the cosmic or ocean realms.
yeah, and there is that notion of like we know just about as much about the this most distant stars as we know about the lowest depths of the ocean. So you could say that they're
Exactly.
connected realms in terms of their allure of the unknown, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, speaking of allure of the unknown, track three, Sniffing Burgundy.
Unsatisfied, keeps crying, and embers turn to flame, consuming more elastic fuse.
This is one of
Yes.
my favorite songs on the album, and I do not understand it.
Thank you. Um, yeah, this song, I call it my song because I really like wanted it to exist. And when we were doing the creative concepts, it was really me like pushing for it to be developed the way it was. I really like the whole jazz lounge singing. That's something that I like exploring a lot, and I wanted something to really um capture that. And David Lynch was before his death. This was planned out way before he died. But he's just been such a creative muse for me and an inspiration to a lot of my art that I wanted to write something that was very David Lynch-esque. And if you notice, like with his work, there's a lot of like jazz lounge singer-esque type of performances in his art. And so I was like, okay, let me bring that. That'd be a perfect opportunity to tie that in with like one of my favorite artists being the inspiration for this. And so, I had planned to do the whole like Black Lodge music video style, for a long time before it actually came into motion. But yeah, that song for me it's very much like if I were to write a song and for Dawn of Ouroboros that's like truly mine, like that one was it.
Mhm.
So between that and bioluminescence, those were the ones I had like the heaviest hand in, like the orchestrations and like just the overall concept and creation. And in addition to, of course, the vocal work.
Okay, so it's a very important song to you, both in
Yes.
terms of how it's written and what it is, and in terms of where it comes from. It's
Hmm.
I wouldn't say it's an important song to me in that way because I've only really been listening to it for a week. So I haven't
Hmm.
figured out what it means to me yet, but it is the one that gets me most intrigued and most curious, like the one that gets me to go, what the fuck, in the curiosity sense, not in the I don't like it sense or anything like that.
Yeah.
Um, so first thing, the whole upright bass part of the intro and jazz, how did you know how to integrate that with your more melodic post black metal, prog death metal sound and make it work? Because there's genres that feel like they're worlds apart. I couldn't have seen them coming together, but they come together so well.
Yeah, I actually Ian did not actually write the stand-up bass part for that song. He did do it in the video, but I worked with Jason Cohen from the Lovecraft Sextet and the Kilimanjaro Jazz Ensemble, and he recorded the stand-up bass for that part. I had given him, I think, draft vocals and like just some basic drum stuff. And I said, okay, can we write something to honor this? This is what we're thinking. And he came back with perfect, not too showboaty, not too in your face, like very nicely seated into the orchestration. And so I really was very happy with how it came out. And yeah, I just can't thank him enough for that addition to the song. And I think having that visual stand-up bass in the music video, what that was super important to me, and I was glad that Ian, who performed it in the video, he was also very adamant, like, we have to do it. Like, he played stand-up bass in school for a long time, so it wasn't something unfamiliar to him at the time. It was just I asked Jason to do it because I wasn't thinking of Ian that way for whatever reason, but I think it all worked out. It was a effort on a few fronts. So
Yeah, it's really nice because it's a striking intro. And then because it's a striking intro, and then you get into that jazz vibe, then when you get back into your sound that your listeners would be used to, all of a sudden it's surprising because it comes as a contrast to the intro.
Mhm.
Um, I want to get into the lyrics to this one as well. A few stuff that caught my attention. Dancing terpsichore's spell, enslaved by nature's grasp. Again, I
Mhm.
Googled because I'm not cultured enough. Terpsichore is the goddess of dance in Greek
Mhm.
mythology. And I like that you have this notion of enslaved by nature's grasp. So it's
Mhm.
almost like you're describing, my camera's blurring. Okay.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're describing whatever it may be to living beings of any species, humans or anything else, when they're coming together in dance or in some form of intimacy, that it's almost like an involuntary process, that it's guided by nature, not of their own decision to do so. Is that
Mhm.
is
Yeah,
that the
that
intent to describe that?
yes, absolutely. You've got it.
Okay. It's a bit annoying for me that I got everything right, because that leaves you less room to say things and nerd out about things.
No worries.
But I really like that line, and it's not the only time you reference Greek mythology in this album. So what how much is Greek mythology and gods and things like that? How much are these an inspiration for you in your writing?
I'd say a big inspiration, and my cats are actually named Persephone and Poseidon. So, it's just something that I don't know why, I just like nerding out on it, and I think it's really cool, because it doesn't really tie into like a territory of religion that is controversial. I think it's like something that is appreciated by the masses, and it doesn't hold any like strong belief system. It's just, there's just a lot of really cool facts and backstories to these mythological gods and goddesses that I think are interesting, and I think it's a fun uh, playground, I
Yeah,
think, to
it's
write
more
from. Yeah.
it's more like lore and fantasy world building in its inception than it is any sort of mass cultural movement that would either get pissed off at you or want you to join them or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Um, another line I want to pick on: synchronizing rhythm so effortlessly entranced.
Hmm.
Do you believe rhythm is something sort of man-made within the arts and within music, or more like a natural process as well?
I think it can be both. I think there is technical rhythm, which is
Mm-hmm.
more like you're intentionally setting the pace for something, to metronome or whatever. But I do think that there is natural rhythm, that's expressed itself through centuries with dance and other activities of cardio. But
Okay.
so yeah.
I actually, this made me think of something, of a post I saw from a singer I really love. She was talking about an experiment she did where she had this app on her phone that could like basically track your footsteps if you just hold your phone in your pocket, and it tracks the rhythm of your footsteps, and just put her phone in her pocket and went for a walk. And then when she
Mhm.
looked at the data from that, it turned out that her walking pace is 100% a stable tempo involuntarily.
Oh wow.
So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
so it's this idea that rhythm is built into life, sort of. She is a prog metal singer, so I would wonder how much that's actually just trained by the fact that she's a musician. But
Yeah.
the concept I still really loved. I also want to get a bit into the symbolism in the video, because again, it's confusing. So you have a
Hmm.
statue to the
Yes.
left, and you have this figurine of a hand to the right of the
Hmm.
band. The statue, I'm assuming, is Terpsichore. It's the goddess of dance. What's the hand?
The hand I just thought was a really cool prop, to be honest. I really liked it. But there is a lot of talk of like, tracing and like, just hand movements described within the song that maybe is like less up the middle. So I think hands come like into a big play with the song and its lyrical content and describing like the heat and intensity of physical actions and such.
Mhm.
So for me the hand made sense. I think hands like are very like they're beautiful, right? Like they can be very artsy and beautiful and
Mhm.
add like a nice silhouette to the whole video. So that was the main reason we used that. I was just trying to find like the right props, because if you look at David Lynch's Black Lodge, it's like interesting but simple furnitures around the Black Lodge. And I was like, well, what can I use as like something to really add some value? And there's also a statue in
Yeah.
the Black Lodge as well. So it's like I really wanted like the mythological appearance of a statue in the video. So that was important to me. But the
So it's also
hand, yeah, it's just kind of, I thought it was cool. So I
so
rolled with it.
so the video setup is also a bit of a tribute to that.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay, that's really cool. I had an interpretation for some of the props, because you have these like candles that are human-shaped candles and they're
Yes.
burning. And then there's the hand, and then
Hmm.
there's the statue of the goddess. And
Hmm.
you have these scenes where like you see wax dropping into the hand. So you could say that's almost like the goddess possessing the people who are the candles to engage into their whatever act and sort of consuming some life force out of them in the process. Like it's this possessive sort of thing.
That's really cool, actually. For me, it was more of just like the aesthetic of it all. Yeah, I was trying to make it like cohesive enough to where people could draw like their ideas and stories into it. So that's cool that it worked.
Well, given all my speculations, I guess that's mission accomplished, because I'm just like, I'm picking on everything here. And there is one more thing I want to pick on in the video, which is you have all the imagery of like things turning upside down. And you have at one point this globe that you can see, and in the globe all the images are turned upside down from what's outside. Like you can see the candle light just above the globe, but in the mirroring you see the light downwards and things like that. So what's up with all the upside down imagery? What does that mean?
I think it really is just kind of an ode to, you know, things being like, there's this moment in between realities, right? Where things kind of feel like their own separate world. And kind of just tapping into that, where it's like things don't make sense. Things aren't always as they appear. And this is just this place in between. And like that song is just kind of like the romanticism of that space in between.
So basically all the moments of your experience where you're pretty much taken by the flow and can't really process anything of it in the moment. I've had some of those experiences. They're weird. Sometimes they're very good weird. Sometimes they're not so good weird.
Yeah.
Okay, track 4, Poseidon's Hymn. A really cool song. I think it's a more melodic one, more narrative feels in a way.
Yeah.
You described Poseidon as a god of action who likes to explore his realm rather than just rule over it, and talk of this idea that there are creatures that tested his rule or something like that. Who tested Poseidon's rule?
I think it's more like in the myth of it all. It's like basically, you know, he came into power, and because he was like a god that was willing to just be part of assimilating into like his environment, it was like people didn't take him as seriously or whatever. So or the creatures of the sea didn't take him as seriously, so you know, he had to use more of like a firm hand and like, you know, his trident to like make it known like, no, this is my territory, you will follow my rule. That's at least my understanding of it. I could be completely off base, but yeah, that's
okay. Dueling Sunsets. There is one really confusing thing to me about this song, which is describes sunset imagery. Everything's very poetic, everything's very beautiful, everything's very clear. Everything makes sense about this song to me, except for one thing: the title. What's the duel? What's the sunset dueling?
So I lived in California. That's where we're, you know, the band's based out of for many years. And like the sunsets there are like phenomenal. You know, you go out to the beach or just anywhere. It's just, you know, these gorgeous pink and purple skies, you know, just like an orchid array across the skies, and it's just gorgeous. And then, you know, I moved to Washington State, where the sunsets are very different. It's not quite as golden, you know, it's not like the Golden State. So, but they're very beautiful and unique in their own regard. So like I just like thought about like how different the sunsets are and but they're both like uniquely gorgeous and like I think top tier. So it's like, which one's better? They're dueling, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
That's kind of my idea behind it.
It's like a beauty pageant for galactic bodies.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, I like it. Okay, I had different interpretations. One of them was the meme about the air being dramatic. I don't know if you know it.
What is it?
Do you know the meme about the air being dramatic?
No.
Okay, so it's this thing where someone says like, look, the sunset is doing all these beautiful colors, and the idea is that scientifically all the colors we see are actually chemical reactions in the air. They're not the actual sun. They're here in our atmosphere. So the sun replies and says, oh, that's not me, that's just the air being dramatic. And then the air starts yelling at the sun like, you called me dramatic? Okay, we'll continue this in the morning. And that's the colors you see.
Okay.
So that was one interpretation. The other interpretation was actually inspired by the galaxy on dancing tides from bioluminescence, which is that when you have the sun setting into the sea, you also have its mirror and they meet at the horizon. So those are the dueling sunsets.
That is a really cool take on it. Yeah. I love it.
Okay. About the video to this song, you have a lot of these, like I like to call them, the Windows XP multi-window error. So you have the same image sort of spreading across the screen. Mm-hmm. In bioluminescence, you had weird mirroring imagery, sort of the left image flowing into the right image and vice versa. Mm-hmm. And in Sleeping Burgundy, you had all the upside downs. Do you have a thing for dissociative imagery and things that make people dizzy?
I think so. Well, with the whole, the Windows era of the Dueling Sunsets video. So that video, the song overall was inspired by kind of bringing metal and synthwave together. And, having that 1980s, 1984 classic feel. And so, even the makeup I had done that day was makeup I would never do in real life. It was blue and just very 80s-esque style. So we were really playing into the whole synth wave, and we felt that imagery really kind of aided in that. Also the studio we worked out of had a lot of synth wave, pop style lighting and imagery within it. We also had a lighting guy on set running all the lights while we were performing. So yeah, the lights were very important. That's the colors and lights on these 3 videos were very important to us. And then if you put the 3 videos together, it's the red, the blue, the green together, and making the whole that come together to make full scope of colors.
Yeah, because it's RGB, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the use of very diverse colors in Dueling Sunsets really made editing that reaction really tricky for me, because I was trying to keep up with all the colors and it was taking too much time. So eventually I gave up, but I think it still turned out well. Are you considering bringing that sort of light show to the stage, if that would be possible?
Yeah, that's actually something we've been talking about. We really need to up our lighting game. We're lucky that, a lot of the venues we have now have pretty good lighting systems. But I really want to program our own light show, because I feel that, I don't know, that's just something I really want to do. So that's been in the talks for a while. It's just more of the gear space at this point, where it's okay, well, now I have to bring a lighting rig too. It's just, there's so much going on in terms of, packing things out. And when we start tours in different cities, that makes it increasingly difficult to fly with all this gear as it is. We're already, all of us are packed to the brim trying to get all the gear there and the merch and everything. So there's a lot that goes into it. But hopefully in the very near future, we'll have at least one show that has insane lighting that we've designed for the whole set. So
okay, that sounds cool, because that really fits with your sound. You're a very chromatic band, despite being black metal at the root of it, which is very weird but also great. Black metal shouldn't be colorful, but it is, and it makes sense.
Yeah, that's definitely something we lean into quite a bit.
Okay, track 6, Static Repetition. for me, it was like a complete flipping the script in the album, because everything you had going on up until that point was epic, natural, cosmic, mythological, grandiose, and then all of a sudden we sink into dreary routine.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
both this song and the follow-up and Mournful Ambience, they're all a lot darker. So was it an intention? Was it that the intention to have the album open up bright and majestic and then sort of descend into the darkness towards the end?
Yeah, very much so. So, the bioluminescence has a lot of contrast between the dark and the light, which I felt was a really cool theme to tie to our sound, because we do so much of, really dark and depressive, and then versus like very bright and, just a lot happier and explorative. And I think that is always going to be a theme for us, and something that describes us as just like the light and the dark coming together and meeting in this like this realm between, and then it creates Dawn of Ouroboros, right? That sounds so I don't know, arrogant or whatever.
Yeah, it does, and it's great. Keep it that way. You've earned the right.
Thank you. So yeah, that was intentional to kind of like bring it back down to the darkness. And then the static repetition really it's about like traveling and like how mundane and like exhausting that feels just from having to do the act of traveling all the time. Yeah, I don't know. I told Tony, I was like, I'm gonna write a train song, and he goes, "Excuse me," and I'm like, yeah. I was like, yes. And I was like, here's this stupid vibraphone synth I wrote. And he's like, oh my God, it sounds like you're in like a train station. I was like, exactly.
Sheldon Cooper just became a fan of Dawn of Ouroboros.
The ultimate train experience.
I love it.
Yeah. So there's one lyrical line I want to pick on from this song, which is, trees cast shadows swaying, offering a calming, silent rhythm to soothe the discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like all the song is this almost dystopian, like dreary cityscape, caught in routine, numb imagery, and then you have this like spark of light and of nature just thrown in the middle. Is that what nature is to you when you're caught up in any sense of routine?
Yeah, I think it offers like a brief space to take your mind away and creates some peace within. Things can be really terrible, but if I look out and think it's beautiful outside, I'm like, is it really that terrible? It's like a grounding experience, right? And when you're traveling, you do get these brief little moments where you get to appreciate the imagery around you. And I think that it's important to look to those things to stay on your path forward, right? And like happy with your path forward.
Okay. Last song, if you were going to think of Mournful Ambience as more of an outro, is Fragile Tranquility. This one is my other favorite song from the album, next to Sleeping Burgundy, because it's relatable in all the ways in which I wish it wasn't. This song describes everything I don't like about how my brain works. So, a few ideas I want to pick on.
Mm-hmm.
Fragile looming specter of change, there remains a sense of home, resilience. So it's like when change threatens, most humans have a tendency to resist change.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose your message in this song is that while that usually happens, that's not what should happen.
Yeah, I think that the home and the comforts of home should come from a different area. Nothing's consistent. And, it kind of goes into like the ocean theme again, where it's very chaotic. Life is very chaotic, and there's ever-changing tides, and just kind of flowing with it and finding your home and your grounding piece from other areas of life is critical. So, um, yeah.
Yeah. So change isn't a threat that must be resisted. It's just the natural way of things.
Exactly. Exactly. Which, you know,
Okay.
a lot of people echo that sentiment, but
Well, I feel like it's a lot easier, especially in our modern world of all comforts at our fingertips. It's a lot easier to parrot the wisdom than to actually embody it and go with the flow, because we have a lot of means to give ourselves at least the illusion of stability and of things being constant. So we kind of
yeah.
get taken by that. And that gets me to imprisoned by one's devices, elusive embrace. So this is like, whether it's devices or any other form of addiction, it's kind of like how people tend to avoid change by getting hooked on something, or just avoid whatever comes by getting hooked on something.
Yeah, I think that, you know, we self-soothe in a lot of ways, right? And when things are less consistent, we tend to lean into the to our like vices, right? Whether that be something like, some people it's exercise, some people it's narcotics. You never know. But you know, like,
Yeah.
I think that during the times where things are changing at a pace that you're not comfortable with, those are the times where you're grasping on to those things that make you feel like at least a little safe, right?
Yeah. For
Yeah.
me, it's particularly a sense of when a certain moment or phase or something that was going on in my life ends abruptly or ends before I feel like it's complete or something like that, then I tend to cling to it.
Mhm.
That's kind of what this song reflected to me. And it's quite the inner struggle. Last lyrical snippet I want to pick on, grip of the anticipated down. It's the closing line in the song. What's your take on people's self-imposed, self-fulfilling prophecies, if you will?
I think that it's natural for people to fall into that pattern. I think that everybody finds themselves kind of like trying to predict how things are going to turn out, especially when things are more volatile. You know, exactly, exactly. And so I think that, I mean, this song really is like, it kind of, I wrote it at like the lyrical, I did all like the vocal stuff at like, you know, between the hours of like 1 and 4 in the morning one night. And I was feeling pretty raw at the time. So, you know, this song is definitely, I would say it's like my craziest song for sure. Like, I felt like, yeah, I was just going through a lot, and I was nearing the end of the album writing phases, and I was trying to like knock one more out of the park essentially. And that song is what came of that time. So, um, yeah,
Well,
during my cuckoo hours. Yeah.
that probably explains why I connected it so much, because I've been listening to this album when I should be sleeping, you know, trying to squeeze more stuff into my life that
Mhm.
many voices in my head telling me I shouldn't because I'm doing too many things. And I'm like, yeah, shut up. I'm going to do this anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've been listening to it during my cuckoo hours, and then I'm listening to the song and it's like, why are you telling me what I'm feeling? Like, shut up.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, we get stuck in these modes where like, we have our goals in mind. I was like, I have to finish this album. You know, that was like really the last song, and I kind of like left it there. It was just mocking me. And then when I finally got to writing it, it just all came flooding out, and it was so raw. And like, I think the vocal performance overall on that one is it's by far my most peculiar on the album, I think. But I remember
Okay.
like listening back and being like, what am I doing? What did I do? Yeah.
Right. So I love that you brought that up, because the next thing I wanted to ask you about the song were actually a few vocal snippets.
Hmm.
So I'm not a singer. but I have been exposed to singers and singing teachers, and I have been exposed to a lot of theory about what happens in vocals. So I'm curious whether I'll understand anything if you're willing to vocally nerd out to me about a couple of specific moments. There's one moment when you do something that to me sounds like falsetto, but then also vibrato, but then also like really breathy and weird.
Beyond the tranquil glen and mist, glade and forest.
Like, what's going on there vocally?
So I think the breathiness of my voice on a lot of my vocal performances is it's become like a theme and a talking point for people, because it's like, I think that like the natural like breathing into your singing offers it a lot of emotion, and like it kind of gives it this natural, like it could go many ways. It could sound remorseful, or it could sound like just absolutely overcome with like love or whatever. It's just like there's so many ways it can go. And I think that the breathy style really suits like a lot of the emotions I'm trying to portray. And yeah, I think maybe you're talking about the part where I say like the tranquil glen, and it's like I'm doing this like very strange vibrato. The space between the vibrato is like very distinct, and that's not something I had done before. And that was one of the parts where when I listened back, I was like, is that too weird? Like, what was I doing? Like, and I almost redid it in a more like up the middle way, and I decided no. And Tony was like, no, that's so cool, just leave it. Because I was bringing people in to listen after I recorded it and performed it on my own, and I was like, do you think this is too weird? I think it's kind of weird.
I get why I can see why you would get that sense, because it's very out there, like it's striking. But at the same time, I don't feel like there's anything about your musics and your aesthetics that shouldn't be striking. So it fits right in. And especially if you didn't have these weird moments in the song, it would feel a bit like a static repetition part 2, because it's also in this like heavy pressing sort of emotional space. So to have these like weird changes is really making it different.
Yeah.
And the other vocal moment that I wanted to pick on is pretty much close to the end, where you do what I would describe filthy vocals.
So I layered it with this like really high pitched like pig squeal, monster squeal type of thing that I've used when doing like video game voiceover work. So I was like, what can I do that felt boring? Like this song to me, I was like, this feels boring. Like I need to add some more like layers of intricacies vocally to like really jazz it up a bit. And so I decided to add that into that spot, because otherwise it felt too uniform. And I don't know. I decided to go with that, and it's the only spot on the album that I use that type of vocal. So
you feel about it exactly the way I feel about it. I feel like having these weird vocal acrobatics coming through this song are really what sets it apart, and it's at the exactly at the right place in the album, because it's like a downhill trajectory on the album, and when you're nearing the end of the journey, that's when the most like dark and fragile and visceral stuff gets out. So also on the aggressive end and on the clean end. And it's like that's the end of the song. That's sort of when everything breaks down. It's almost like, if you will, like a bit of a mental breakdown or like a collapse. So it makes sense to have the really extreme, really visceral things hit then, and then you sink into mournful ambience.
Yes.
So mournful ambience feels like a wrapper slash conclusion more than
Hmm.
a standalone song. Is that
Yes.
intentional?
Yes, yeah, it's supposed to be like the sad outro. We were having trouble kind of when the piano parts were written by Ian, and um at first we thought, oh, maybe that should be an interlude, maybe the album's too much for too long. And then I thought, okay, why don't we have Slipping Burgundy kind of serve as the interlude with that long intro. And then if we put it towards the end and we make it like really sad, then we can kind of create the sinking into the final darkness.
Yeah. Yeah, that fits really well aesthetically. I feel like it's in the right place. I don't like, maybe an atmospheric interlude somewhere in the album would have worked, but I don't feel like it should have been this one. This sounds final, and especially with how the lyrics are done, it sounds like a conclusion. So
Hmm.
reality is the ocean visualized, the churn, the push and pull.
Hmm.
That really
So
stays with me after the album ends. What can you tell me about that?
I think there's points where, we were working towards so many things, and it kind of goes to like the whole angel and the devil type of thing, where it's like, part of you is um like you're rooting for yourself and you believe in yourself and you're doing all these things, and then there's a part of you that has like self-doubt and like imposter syndrome, and you're just like, you're tearing your art apart, and you're like thinking of it outside of yourself, and you're constantly like trying to push that part of yourself away, and it's just kind of like this churny tug of war between the two parts of you while you're creating.
Yeah.
And so for me, it goes back to like the ocean, like trying to like, how can I make that as part of the ocean, and like the churn, the push and pull of the ocean. It feels the same as like battling with those two sides of yourself while you're creating your art.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that mostly in the sense of I have an obsession with what is agency, because we all have this perception that we have agency, but we clearly
Hmm.
don't have control over our circumstances. And then we don't really decide what thoughts are we going to get. And our feelings are kind of there, especially the sensory ones, pretty much on their own. We don't decide to be hungry. We don't decide to fall in love. We don't decide to have to eat, sleep, go to the toilet. So how much do we really have agency?
Yeah,
Or are our
exactly.
senses just tricking us that we have it? So then we're really
Exactly.
just caught in the churn, in the waves.
Yes, exactly. It's just like as much control as we want to have over things, we don't. So just like you said, like that kind of just the push and the pull of
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. I still lie to myself that I have agency so I can feel good about myself of how I conducted this interview.
You did awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. And okay, that pretty much wraps up the album. To everyone who was willing to spend all this time hearing us rant about the album, it means you have a lot of free time, so you're also going to go and listen to the album. And if you have so much time to spend not making money, it means you also have money, so you're also going to go buy the album. I decided.
Love
But
it.
before we wrap everything up, I have one more important question to ask you. This is the
Yes.
most important question. It is the one that I can't live with unless I get the answer. And it is, I need a complete list of the hair products and hair care routine that you have.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been using the same like shampoo and conditioner for since I was like 15 years old. I've tried other brands, and every time I'm like, I hate it, I'm going back. It's expensive. It's called Pureology. And
Purology.
and I love it. It's like it just really helps keep my hair. It was like no matter what, like I do like color my hair and like, do things to it. Like I'm headbanging on stage. I thrash it around a lot. I put it through a lot. So, I do trims like every 8 weeks or so. I trim off like a half inch to an inch, and that just keeps the ends healthy. I brush it and I braid it at night. I use a lot of leave-in conditioners. Like oils and such. Um, Opalex is one of them. Um, Other than that's pretty much it. I think I was like blessed by the hair gods or something. I don't know, because a lot of people struggle to grow their hair very long, and for me, it's like I feel like I put my hair through too much for it to be this long, but obviously it could always be healthier if I didn't put it through so much.
Yeah, okay. So in this album, we had the god of the sea, we had the goddess of dance, we also have the god of fire mentioned in Dueling Sunsets. On the next album, we need to find out who's the god of hair.
The god of hair.
Yeah. And if there isn't one in any mythology, then I guess we just found her.
Yeah. I'll just be like, I am the god of hair. Hello.
Yes, yes. I mean, I have mentioned at the beginning of the interview that you are of unknown alien origin, so maybe we came to that conclusion by the end.
I come from the sea and the stars.
Yes, yes. Okay, well, that is everything. I will look back at the recording and write down all your hair care tips, and then we'll probably fail to follow through with most of them by the end of week 2. But I still appreciate the insight. Thank you very much for your time. Any closing remarks for me or for the people watching?
Just keep your eye out, keep supporting us. It helps us grow. Buying the album is obviously the best way to support us, or sharing to your friends if you can't buy it. Keep the music flowing. That's really important. And then we're hitting the road again soon. It will be announced in the coming days. And come catch us at a show. Come talk to us.
When I'll have enough money, I'll have to go across the pond.
Yeah.
Reality is the push and pull. We'll see what it has in store for me.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you very much for your time. This is everything. And to everyone watching, thank you very much for your time. We really hope you enjoyed this interview, and we'd love to see you back at the Windmill very soon. Corpse is out.